they're the age of heroes who never come again.
It will. It has to.
Now that the entire superhero fad with Marvel and some DC attempts has kind of faded, it's becoming increasingly clear to me that the next wave of hit movies and TV shows will be based on video games. Now, if that's a good or a bad thing for gamers, at the end of the day, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and there are a lot of factors to take into consideration. I thought about this recently, and I just wanted to talk about it. So,
Here we go.
if there's anything that history taught us about movies based on video games, is that mostly they were, for all intents and purposes, plain terrible.
And one man wants to rule them all. There's only one thing he needs to succeed.
This is only half of it. Find me the other half now.
And look who's got it.
I'm not gonna go through all of them and list every single one, cause that would take forever, but I am going to highlight some of which I liked and some major fails. Now, obviously, I haven't seen each and every one, but my favorite of the bunch has to be Silent Hill from 2006. I think I've seen it twice or maybe 3 times, being one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And that's because when it comes to horror movies, I do not respect the jump scare technique at all. I find it effective, but I just think it's cheap. The formula is pretty basic. You create tension, thus expectation, eliminate sound to build that tension, maybe hear the on-screen character breathing heavily to relate, and after a sphincter tightening pause, blam, it's in your face, everyone walks away terrified at the end of the movie, and in goes the cash. So in short, I like atmospheric horrors that keep me absorbed in a feeling of uneasiness throughout the entire movie, as opposed to jump scares that just make me shit my pants once in a while. The next video game movie I liked was Mortal Kombat. Come on, you gotta give props to the movie, if not for Christopher Lambert, then for the soundtrack, which I can't use sadly because of stupid copyright laws. But you know it, it's in your head right now, isn't it? Mortal Kombat!
A deadly virus capable of contaminating the entire world has been released.
Oh my god.
We have to get out of this building. What was that? It's the brakes!
Resident Evil from 2002 is another favorite of mine. I haven't seen it since I was 15, but I do remember liking it very much. The atmosphere was pretty badass, Mila Jovovich was all the rage back then after The Fifth Element, and overall, I still don't think it's a bad movie by any means. I saw the rest of the series as well, but somehow I don't remember anything else about what happened in those ones. I do remember this guy though.
What the fuck is that?
You're going down, you son of a bitch!
This is no ordinary dagger. Releasing the sand turns back time. Only the holder of the dagger is aware of what's happened.
Prince of Persia with Bubble Boy himself was pretty relaxing to watch, but as a complete departure from the games. You know that feeling when you just want to shut down your brain and not think or follow a clever plot or unravel a complex narrative thread? That's exactly what Pop the Movie was to me. Just a relaxing popcorn flick with no expectations whatsoever. Oh, Detective Pikachu, which I saw recently, was pretty good as a movie, to be honest. I actually enjoyed it, even though the main plot wasn't about Pokemon fights, which was kind of a bummer, but all in all, it's not bad. And I heard the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was kinda good as well, so I need to see that also.
Dark forces are upon us.
Find these beasts, or whatever they are.
Warcraft was really close to my heart. Not because the movie was amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but because for the first time I was able to see some of my favorite characters of all time in a cinematic universe, which I hoped would expand as the Lord of the Rings had. But now I'm just waiting on that Henry Cavill Arthas movie, if that ever will be a thing. Okay, to wrap this up, apart from these, I either found the rest bad or just haven't seen them because I knew they were bad. Not going into specifics, but try to remember how lackluster Hitman and Assassin's Creed were. They went an entire new direction with the story. Nobody wanted that. Why didn't they just copy the game? I wouldn't have minded seeing Hitman solve the mystery of his birth or creation inside that Romanian lab, or see Altair do his thing in Jerusalem or Damascus. I don't think people would have minded, honestly, on the contrary. I'm not even gonna go into Max Payne, because to say that that movie was a disappointment would be an understatement. I loved Max Payne since the first time I played it back when I was 10 years old. The story, the voice acting, the bullet mode, the entire freaking atmosphere was so intense and amazingly created by Remedy Entertainment. And all of that with Max having the graphical polygons of a cereal box. I mean, look at this, and it's still awesome to this day. How in the 9 circles of hell did they manage to screw up a movie with Max Payne and with Mark Wahlberg in it? Hopefully, I won't be asking this question in the future when Uncharted comes out. Anyway, I bet every single one of you watching this video has something to say about a video game movie adaptation they were heavily disappointed by. Please feel free to do so in the commentary section. For what it's worth, in my opinion, what all of these failures above have in common from my point of view is that they suffered from the same problems. Meaning the screenwriters had all to do with the actual legacy or lore of the games and made something up really fast and cheap in hopes that us moron gamers will eat anything up because we're all a bunch of 12-year-olds playing kiddie games, right? At least I suspect that's why they thought of us when they made such bad movies. Otherwise, why would anyone hit the green light and spend hundreds of millions of dollars making movies after video games? That's my opinion, at least, that the studio heads, writers, producers, directors, and everyone involved in actually making the movie were condescending assholes that looked at us gamers as childish morons. You know, like our parents used to do. But behind this blatant display of uncaringness and incompetence, there lies another reason for the unsuccessful silver screen productions. One that we will talk about a bit later. Okay, now that we're done with the movies in the past based on video games, it's time to approach the new and improved TV shows at the future based on video games. Because after the domino effect of the flops, the movie studios pulled back from making them, thank God. And then started the era of the superhero movies.
I have given a name to my pain.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Where does he get those wonderful toys?
Well, the really successful era of the superhero movies, because that trend existed before. Success followed here and there, but I think it didn't blow up as well because people weren't ready yet. Most grown-ups back then still had a "oh, it's for kids" mentality. But after Mr. Steve Jobs made it possible for the world to witness the wonders of Angry Birds and cut the rope, all of a sudden, everyone had some sort of pop culture in their pockets. So year after year, people got accustomed to playing games on phones. They loosened up, as they say. Then, in increments, Marvel had something cooking for the moviegoers up until 2012, when the entire world was acquainted to the most useless man in the cinematic universe. Oh yeah, and his team. Oh, the endgame started then. The cinema was basically the home of the superhero for a long time, and when you know it, it started and temporarily ended still with Avengers. Which I bring up because in this instance, the movies were mega successful and the game made after the movies was a flop. Gee, who would have thought that undertaking the task to basically make like 20 games in one would be a failure? Could perhaps Insomniac's Spider-Man and the Batman games be so awesome because the studios spent years and years working on every single aspect of Spidey and Bats to make him the most flawless experience to date? Who knows? Maybe you do, in the comment section. Anywho, after Endgame, it was really kinda Endgame cause nothing of real importance has been in cinemas since. However, during this entire time where Avengers ruled supreme on the big screens, on the small screens a certain phenomenon was occurring. Something that would revolutionize television.
Power is a curious thing. It's a trick. A shadow on the wall. Power resides where men believe it resides.
Anyway, Game of Thrones kinda set the bar in terms of production quality. Because up until this show, the budgets allocated to television and quality of the effects weren't all that amazing. They were good, sure, but not Game of Thrones good. And that led to the fact that this one had the same effect on the small screens as the Avengers had on the silver screen. It introduced the world to something never seen before on that level. So after Game of Thrones ended, the way it did, it left a hole that needed to be filled.
That's what she said!
And the man that rose to the occasion and filled that hole was a Superman for the job, in my opinion. But all kidding aside, it was kinda the first video game TV show or Netflix show, however you wanna call it, that began the domino effect for such series. As you might already know, the problem with past movies from games wasn't just that they were bad, that was just a symptom. The true disease that plagued them was that the studios twisted and badly altered an entertainment format that's meant to be actively experienced for hours on end, thus trying to transform tens of hours of entertainment into basically 1 hour and a half. And you really can't do that without repercussions. That, ladies and gents, is where the true fault lies. Movies are media formats structured and built around that 2-hour mark. They live or die in that window, whereas video games, well, you know how they work. Related to this, I remember reading an article back in 2013 where Dan Houser, Rockstar Games co-founder, said that a GTA movie will never happen because of how the game was structured, and that it would be most suited for a TV series. At the time I thought, wow, that's a really great idea. I could see that being the future of passive entertainment formats for video games. It took 7 years since then for a mainstream live-action TV show to come out, and what do you know? When you invest quality writing and put real effort into something, it becomes a hit and doesn't fail as some crappy half-assed attempt at something cheap, fast, and greed-oriented. That's my perspective, at least, of what happened before and how The Witcher TV series paved the way for future video games-based TV shows that will slowly take over, much like the Avengers did back in the day. Ever since The Witcher hit big, it seems like every huge gaming franchise came crawling out of the woodwork and announced some form of TV show. Some still want to make movies like Uncharted, which I find not necessary, but Tom Holland already sacked the movie and basically said that his performance was crap. And there's Monster Hunter as well, another flop. Let's see, what else? Oh, Borderlands. That seems to be casting every big action star known to man, except The Rock. And then there's Tomb Raider 2, Metal Gear Solid the movie, and Mortal Kombat. That's basically everything I found worthy of mentioning for now, cause as I was saying, everyone is doing TV shows, especially Netflix with Castlevania, which is cool, or Dota, which was disappointing. But now it's time for Pedro Pascal es Joel Martínez y Gabriel Luna como Tomás Martínez junto con Chica Eli son el último de nosotros. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I'm a moron, I know, but I just had to do it. Moving on, Fallout also will reportedly have a TV show, and it's being made by Amazon that's also making the Lord of the Rings show. I hope to God they won't screw up Lord of the Rings. And speaking of Amazon, Netflix is on a killing spree and are making Resident Evil live action, Resident Evil animated, Assassin's Creed TV series, an animated Cyberpunk Edge Runners TV series, an animated Splinter Cell TV series, animated Tomb Raider, Angry Birds, but who cares, Sonic Prime, who cares again, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy, The Cuphead Show, and my list ends there cause I hate lists. So, more or less, as you can see, my prediction of the video game TV show era is beginning to take shape. Now, whether the final product will be any good for us gamers, time will tell. But at the same time, we need to realize as gamers that we won't be the only audience that these shows will reach, and normal people will be introduced to some of these universes for the first time ever and then play the games, hopefully. But I think it's a good thing overall, cause they're mainly focusing on episodic formats rather than outdated cram 10 hours of cinematics into 1.5 hour movie method that failed so many times before. What's your opinion on the matter? Do you think that the era of making video game cinematic or episodic adaptations is over, or is it just beginning? What show would you like to see made after your favorite gaming experience? Waiting for your answer in the comment section. Okay, that's it, I'm done. Thank you for watching, and as always, a special thank you to all of our patrons who like what we do enough to support us. Godspeed and take care. See you in the next one.